Not what you want to see. Bukayo Saka, it's been confirmed he's had surgery on his hamstring. Now, the first thing I would say is, we got to keep our prayers up for Bukayo Saka. Forget football for a sec. We hope the man makes a full recovery and he's able to continue doing what his job is and living his life, really. Other than that, of course, where Arsenal are concerned with our small hopes of winning a trophy, whether that be the Premier League or whatever, Bukayo Saka is a big part of that. And we've got a lot of games to come when he's not going to be there. Obviously, he's torn his hamstring, so you're going to have to let that recover. Of course, from the moment of him being fit or past medically fit, that doesn't necessarily mean he's fit to play again. And I know many people have had their opinions. He's been overplayed, he hasn't been overplayed. This isn't the cause of the injury isn't there. Personally, I think it is an element of wear and tear. And I think generally, without getting into the isms and schisms, not in a mad way, but Saka's been Judas. Injuries to footballers are like chefs cutting their hands. In his 23 years of life, or, him being 23 and more or less being a veteran in this team, hasn't had that. And this is another obstacle that he's going to have to overcome. If there's one thing I can give Bukayo Saka, because we've all seen the highs and the lows for club and country, the man's resilient. And it sucks, man. It really does suck. It sucks for Saka because he's, one of our best players. It sucks from a human point of view. It sucks because, in the last 2 years, specifically this year, we've had a lot of injuries, and a lot of them have been fairly long term. Like Tomiyasu's a no show. Timber had his ACL last year. This season, boy, what players haven't been injured would probably be a better question. We've missed Saka, Odegaard, Benjamin White, Gabriel, Calafiori, technically Zinchenko, Thomas Partey at a point, Moreno at a point, Gabriel Jesus. Very few players have been fit. Now, I'm bored of it, if I'm honest with you, of getting into the whole isms and schisms of injuries, because Arteta said at the start of 2024, we've got one of the smallest squads in the league. As we approach the end of 2024, last week, he echoed that. So I don't know if it's a failing on his part. I don't know if it's a failing on the Cronkies, on the recruitment staff, including the recently departed Edu, or it's everybody. All I know is we knew we asked these questions. I'm a broken record, but whether it's Saka getting injured, Odegaard getting injured, this one getting injured, squad depth, needing a striker, needing an attacker, anyways, regardless of the injuries, a lot of the problems on and off the field, from recruitment to tactics, the negatives, because there are positives, but the negatives, we've not discovered none of them this season. We've been talking about this for a while. So yeah, man, get better soon, Saka, man. Poor news. Apparently, Rafael has made it clear he would like to join Barcelona over the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United. And there's also simultaneous reports of George Mendes aggressively trying to get Rafael from AC Milan to Barcelona, but he's still linked with us. We've been linked with the Frenchman Luis Agoumé, who's been at Solskjaer, been at a couple of clubs, doing quite well in Sevilla. Apparently, Arsenal could use Saliba agent links to sign him. So without reading this, apparently Arsenal have him on the shortlist, 22 years of age, central midfielder. Apparently he's registered to the same agent as Saliba, which obviously I imagine his agent is French or has some links to France. And he's got, I'm sure, a stable of talented young French players, relatively like Saliba, etc., and probably some that are not. So it does help. Obviously, if Arsenal legitimately want this guy, we know how the agent likes to go about things. You can never downplay, better yet, good relationships with people. But I don't think that really plays much of a point. He was signed for Sevilla. Apologies, for 4 million. He's contracted until 2028. So again, gonna have to see what we're doing. Arsenal allegedly have identified Samuel Chukwueze as a potential target as they look to cover for the injured Bukayo Saka. The AC Milan winger is understood to be available for 20 million euros, which could be right up our street in January, if I'm honest. Not a bad player. We was linked with him going back to the days of him playing at the Under-17s World Cup. Don't think he's a difference maker, but it'd be a decent body. It's easy to link Arsenal Football Club with strikers on the best of days, attackers on the best of days, and obviously with Bukayo Saka's injury, we're going to get linked with a whole bunch of people. I know Mikel Arteta, bit of mind games in the public. He's been doing that whole, will only act if there's a special player on the market, in which, if I accept someone's words at face value, I agree with that. But I very much doubt what they're saying publicly and what they're trying to do, whether they do it or not internally, is something different. You look at January, you look at all the games from now to the end of the season. That's accounting for no injuries for the players that are available. That's accounting for no setbacks with Bukayo Saka. We're still in the League Cup. We're still in the Prem, obviously. Well, trying to fight for the league. We're still in the Champions League, and we got the FA Cup. And even that, the games have been coming thick and fast in this festive period. But very quickly, we got some tough and tasty fixtures. You know, we got Brentford away, Brighton away, North London Derby, Aston Villa, Manchester United in the League Cup. The games are coming thick and fast. And I think even Gabriel, Jesus, and Timber, if they pick up another suspension, I think they both avoided it against Ipswich. But if either player picks up a yellow card against, yeah, it would be Brentford 1st of January. I think they have a short little suspension before the amnesty comes in place. So fingers, toes, everything crossed, people. Dani Olmo's been linked with a bunch of clubs. Obviously, he's just signed for Barcelona, but they've made a mess over what's going on with his registration. And apparently, according to reports, they faced the prospect of losing him on a free transfer during the January window. Spanish outlet reports that Barcelona will present a new lawsuit against La Liga on the 30th of December in a last-minute attempt to register Dani Olmo for the remainder of the season. It's claimed Barca argument will center around the fact that all registration rules should be invalid because they are regulated by a body they consider to be incompetent. Boy, so why has everybody else been able to do their job but not you? Arsenal, Manchester United, and Manchester City have all been linked. Apparently, his agent said he was in, well, his agent, not Almo, his agent was in Manchester. Apparently, he's there on holidays. I mean, big up the area of Manchester, but, you know, I'm sure there's a lot to do. But is that the most greatest kind of holiday to take? Maybe he's got family. Maybe he wants to see a different part of the world. Maybe he enjoys the weather in England, much less Manchester. But is that a bit of mind games? I don't know, people. Let's click this report. Dani Olmo agent arrives in Manchester, blah, blah. Let's Arsenal been linked. Apparently, his priority has always been to stay with Barcelona, his boyhood club. But the drawn-out process is understood to have forced his agent to begin exploring potential moves for the 26-year-old, which is harsh because the manager signed for them, people. Literally just signed for them. He said they're on holiday, so we'll have to see how that develops, people. Let me know, would you want him? Arsenal have again been linked with Leroy Sané, who a few days ago was linked with Barcelona, was always linked with Arsenal. Whether it's the fact that he's worked with Mikel Arteta, he plays in a position we need a replacement or an option for Saka, or, you know, just greater options. His contract is running down. It's too easy for the journalists, if I'm honest with you, to link him with us. As it stands, to us, there's been no agreement on a new contract with obviously Bayern Munich. You know, Bayern Munich got a couple of players' contracts running down, innit? Kimmich, Davies, obviously Sané. Look at Liverpool. Obviously, some will do better than others, but Liverpool got a few in Mo Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent. And there's probably a couple of other examples. Would you lot take Sané? I'm not sure, people, but I want to know your thoughts. We're still linked with the Atalanta goalkeeper Marco Casenci. Forgive me for mispronunciations, people. The 24-year-old allegedly has impressed for the Serie A side since last season, people. And, you know, I don't know if we're going to make Neto's move permanent, but you'd imagine a goalkeeper, probably be the first one we sign in Jan, would be on the agenda. If you still have some small hope for Martin Zubamendi to sign for Arsenal, I don't know what you'll make of this. Allegedly, Manchester City are ready to trigger the 50 million release clause in January. And Pep came out this weekend and said we need to sign players. You would have seen over the last few days in relation to Cunha being linked with Arsenal, and the fact they scored a corner against Man United should be alerting the set-piece coaches. Arsenal hold an interest in Wolves' Matheus Cunha, but would face a huge battle landing him during the January window. It's understood that Arsenal's interest was sparked before the injury of Bukayo Saka. Bearing in mind, Wolves are fighting for their life. He's going to cost a lot of money. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Surely they're more open to selling him in the summer. But could you argue, if Arsenal really did have interest in him, they've done the scouting, they know how he can improve us individually and collectively, could you argue you've got to make players available? Yes, you can go for different profiles and, you know, find a Cunha before he's at Wolves, or an Isaac before different position, but Isaac before he lands at Newcastle and he costs a lot more. Kudus when he's at Ajax and is fairly viable. If you can't go down that route, then surely whether it's Cunha, Semenyo, anybody that's linked with Arsenal, Kudus, anyone that's linked with Arsenal, Lookman, Nico Williams, surely you just have to be prepared to pay the inconvenience fee. If I'm honest, I'm just asking you lot. Apparently, talks between Arsenal and 18-year-old Aiden Heaven over a new deal are still ongoing. Arsenal are pushing to get the contract done, while Ajax and Dortmund are both among interested clubs in case he leaves, people. You'd imagine Ethan, when he turns 18, gets a new deal. You'd imagine Lewis Skelly's in line for an improvement on his contract, I'd imagine, if he keeps doing what he's doing. Santi Cazorla was at the Emirates to see our 1-0 win against Ipswich, and he didn't rule out the possibility of returning to Arsenal. Could I come back? Yes, why not? Arsenal is my home. I love the club and the people, so we'll see in the future. I don't know. To be fair, we might as well register you, because the way injuries are going, boy, like, we might need you. And to be fair with you, Santi Cazorla is the 8 I would like to see, or someone in that with that skill set at the club. I think we're lacking in the middle of the park, but I do think, for me, I wouldn't be against another defender. I think we need to sort out the goalkeeping stuff on a more permanent basis. I've just said I'd love another centre midfielder. I'd clearly love a striker. I think the priority has to be another wide man. Whoever that is, wherever that is, I couldn't tell you, and I don't know how feasible it is. And yeah, people, this was prior to the Ipswich game. Gabriel Jesus and Timber have to avoid picking up a booking in Arsenal's next 2 Premier League games to escape a 1-match ban. And you don't want to see that, people, because, boy, you just get through the Brentford game and you're about. There must be an amnesty. So, yeah, man.